Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Jai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana Jaya Sachinandana, Jaya Sachinandana Jaya Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe Jaya Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. It's okay. Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Om Vishnupada Padmahamsa Parvakacharya Stavutara Shata Shri Srimani Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Gita Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakti Vinda Ki Jai Shri Nityananda Trayodashi Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Ganatadamandasya Ganatana Shalakaya Chakshudamritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur tells us that amongst the most important days of the year, Shri Janmastami, Radhastami, Vyasa Puja, The appearance days of Lord Chaitanya and Sri Nityananda Ram are most essential and surcharged with spiritual potency, grace, and blessings. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami introduces the glories of Lord Nityananda by saying that to reveal his glories, which is a very confidential topic, might not be appropriate. I will do so nevertheless, so that the blessings he conferred upon me may be understandable and accessible to all. He's referring to that 24-hour kirtan where Miniketana Ramdas, who is so much infused and intoxicated with the ecstasy of Lord Nityananda, was behaving in a most wonderful way. You know, devotees would offer his obeisances, he would climb on their back, slap them lovingly, love slap. It's a sign of affection. And mildly chastise them in a very loving way. Where have you been so long? I've been missing you. And to most of the devotees, this was just a source of such joy and ecstasy. But Kaviraj Goswami explains that his brother, being a very Paka Brahmana, he couldn't relate to all this as he was worshiping the deity according to the strict regulations of worship. And then he admonished his brother afterwards that, you know, you disrespected the clear representative of Sri Nityananda Ram. And that night in his dream, Lord Balaram came before Kaviraj Goswami and said, amongst other things, he concluded with a wave of his hand, go now to Vrindavan, for there you will attain all things, all desirable things, meaning Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojana, meaning Madan Mohan and Sanatan Goswami, Radha Govinda and Rupa Goswami, and Sri Sri Radha Gopinath, whose representative acharya is Raghunath Das Goswami. The deities, the temples, the acharyas of Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana, all achieved by the mercy of Lord Nityananda. Before we had Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the glories of Lord Nityananda were not so well known, here in Vrindavan, in the plow department, whose patron deity was Baladev himself, we're very eager for Nityananda Trayodashi. And back in those days, it was so cold and there was no place to get warm. And then to say it was austere might be an understatement. For breakfast you get these little bricks made out of paste from government surplus white flour. Little brick, a cup of milk, and some apple chutney from the harvest of the orchards the year before, autumn before harvest time. And if you were so fortunate to be serving in the plow department, you know, you might be miles and miles away from the temple at lunchtime. So to think of, you know, wading through the snow drifts that were sometimes 12 feet high. You know, sometimes we'd just stay in the barn wherever we were and continue our service, come back at night, see if there was any prasadam left over, and there usually wasn't. Or if there was, it was frozen solid. So we heard there was going to be a feast on Nityananda Trayodashi. So in great eager anticipation, the devotees all gathered at the end of the festivities in prasadam room with their bowls and plates. And then the head pujari came out and said, "There's no prasadam. This is after a day of fasting." Before we could even reset our minds, Paramananda Prabhu, the head of the plow department, without missing a beat, he stood up, went to the middle of the prasadam room, and started chanting, "Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga." Now this was spontaneous, so nobody had mridangas or kartals, so they picked up their plates and bowls and started clanging them like gongs and kartals, and everybody started dancing, and we felt such joy, such deep satisfaction and ecstasy that it didn't matter that there was no prasadam that day. Such fulfillment. And everyone is seeking, on a very base level, peace, satisfaction, but ultimately, ananda. Because our nature is Satchit Ananda, little sparks of the great sun of Sri Krishna, who is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. And that Ananda is not some abstract energy. Ultimately, he is a very specific person who takes birth today. Hence, in Lord Chaitanya's own words, everything about him is Ananda. His name is Ananda. Nityananda, eternal Ananda. His name, his form, his behavior, his eating, his drinking, his moving, his dancing, everything about him is simply Ananda. And he dives so deep into the ocean of Ananda that sometimes he's just unconscious there for 3 to 4 days. And when he comes back to consciousness, he speaks so incoherently. And Lord Chaitanya is explaining. I ask him one question, and he answers something totally different and irrelevant. To understand Lord Nityananda, we can consider an introductory lesson given in the parable of the prodigal son. It's amongst one of the most prominent parables of Jesus, who tells a story about a father. And you know, of all people in your life, your father is one who really wants to see you excel him in your achievements. So, in Israeli culture, the father had 2 sons, so his inheritance would be divided between the 2 of them when he died. So the younger son, who's in a junior position, came to his father one day and said, I would like you to give me my inheritance now, which is a clever way of saying, I wish you were dead. The father consented. He gave him his portion of the inheritance. The boy went to a foreign land, meaning a place of enjoyment, squandered all that wealth in no time, and ended up, for his sustenance, taking on a job feeding hogs and living by sharing the feed for the hogs. And then finally he came to the realization, better a servant in my Father's house than a master in this foreign land. So he came back home. His father saw him from the distance and did what no Israeli father could do in a socially acceptable manner. He ran to greet and embraced his long-lost son. And he held a big festival. Now, the older son was irate. Said, I stayed home and obeyed you so well. He's getting all the celebration. And the father said, that's because he was lost. He was lost. And now he's found. And that's a great celebration. Even in the spiritual world, as we hear from Sanatana Goswami in his Brihad Bhagavatamrita. A new recruit to spiritual's entourage appears when Krishna's returning home with the calves. And Gopal runs and embraces him and falls unconscious. You've been away for so long. Now you're home. But the story doesn't really, in regards to today, the real glory is the prodigal father, which represents the prodigal Lord. Prodigal means without boundaries. And the prodigal Lord, who has no boundaries in terms of rescuing fallen souls, bestowing grace, showering blessings. There's no one, including Lord Balaram, on the same level as Sri Nityananda Ram. For little theological understanding, and if you can stay awake through that, we'll get onto the Leela, at which point everyone will wake up. Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda Ram are the same person in different bodies. And even in this world, we find that opposites attract, providing they have comparable, compatible core values, sharing the same foundation. Lord Nityananda is the foundation of everything and everyone, and the foundation of our faith. But they're different, opposites in many ways. Lord Chaitanya is Sevya, the person to be served. Lord Nityananda is the original Sevaka, the Lord who serves. Therefore, he is the Samasti Guru, meaning the collective Guru Tattva, of whom the individual gurus are his limbs. It's like Guru Tattva is the agency. The representative is the individual agent. We say that Lord Nityananda is non-different from Balaram, and yet there is one very significant difference, because in Braj, Krishna revels in Prem Leela, the pastimes of love. Whereas Balaram, though the image of Krishna, the image of mercy, the image of Krishna's mercy, did not distribute that love of God that the Brijabasis cherish. Lord Chaitanya's Leela is more magnanimous in that it is premadan, the distribution of grace, of love of God. And Lord Nityananda's role in that Leela And this is where we get back to the prodigal Lord. Lord Nityananda's role in serving Lord Chaitanya's will crossed over all boundaries, all distinctions of qualification or lack thereof, of who's qualified, who's not, going door to door as a beggar, pleading with everyone to take the holy name of Krishna, which was Lord Chaitanya's order. And in reciprocation, offering to anyone and everyone that gift, which even Brahma and Lakshmi aspire to achieve but cannot attain, Lord Chaitanya is distributing freely up to the heights of Gopi Bhav, Manjari Bhav. Very elevated topic, but this is for those who are qualified. This is his gift. Because as Lord Chaitanya is the unique combined form of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, Lord Nityananda is the combination of Balaram and Ananga Manjari. Thus, he is the reciprocation of the highest rasas and deepest bhavas enjoyed between Radha and Krishna, along with some exceptional, additional, and unique ones which defy all description. Vrindavan Das Thakur, who began to compile Chaitanya Bhagavat to glorify Lord Chaitanya, but his topic kept drifting to the glories of Lord Nityananda, being his last disciple, who, like the youngest son, is the object of special affection amongst the parents. So therefore he delegated, completing Chaitanya Lila to Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vrindavan Das Thakur explains, so Lord Nityananda, sitting on Lord Chaitanya's left, would sometimes address him Prananath, which means darling, and would serve Lord Chaitanya with all the love with which Radha serves Krishna, to such an extent that at certain times he would look just like her. Lord Nityananda's glories are impossible to understand except by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, whose glories are similarly impossible to approach without the mercy of Lord Nityananda. He took birth in Ekachakra and played as a child by reenacting pastimes of Krishna, organizing all his childhood friends, assigning them their roles and their script. He was the main actor as well as the director. His specialty in a way was Ram Lila, in the sense that he would become so emotionally invested. And the village people, they were, the parents of these children were, Nitai, you haven't gone to school yet, you're just a young child. You haven't studied the scriptures. You have not even heard these pastimes in such detail. Where are you getting this from? And he said in his very playful, charming manner, it's my Leela, which I am revealing to you. And they thought that was quite cute, but they didn't grasp what he was saying until that most traumatic event when the mystery sannyasi came, spent the night with the Adai Pandit, and preparing to leave. The next morning, Adai Pandit wanted to give him something in charity. He said, well, there's just one thing I want, but I won't ask unless you promise to give it. That's a strange response. So, what is it? I'm a sannyasi traveling to holy places. I don't have a companion. And the perfect one would be your son. Give him to me in charity. Adai Pandit's mind is reeling, and then it dawned on him that this most intense play, Lord Nityananda both directed and enacted, Ram Lila, at the point where Vishwamitra Muni asked King Dasarath for his sons, Ram and Lakshman. The king just fainted. And Adai Pandit realized that now I've become Dasarath, and I'm handing over my son. So he went on pilgrimage with the sannyasi, and along the way he met Madhavendra Puri. And Madhavendra Puri's guru, Lakshmipati Tirtha, in Pandharpur. Lakshmipati Tirtha was a Balaram Bhakta given to such intense dreams about Baladev, who appeared to him one night and said, there's a Brahmin boy will be coming to you in the morning in the garb of an extreme ascetic. When he asks you for initiation, impart this mantra. And Balaram spoke the Diksha mantra into the ear of Lakshmipati Tirtha, who, as foretold in the morning, Nitai came to him and said, please initiate me with that mantra, which he did. And then he realized that this is Balaram. So Lakshmipati Tirtha was very elderly at that time, so after he returned to Golok, Lord Nityananda accepted Madhavendra Puri as his Guru Maharaj. Amongst the gifts of Lord Nityananda, which are very essential for our advancement, is, you can say generically, Gora Kirtan. Srila Prabhupada specifically gave us the Panchatattva mantra. Now, after his travels, Lord Nityananda ended up in Braj, where he just played like little gopa with other gopas. Some were visible, some weren't. He wouldn't eat unless somebody offered him something, just like a little child, waiting. When is my brother going to call me? Waiting for Lord Chaitanya to finish his triumphs of learning, which is his pastime as Yuga Avatar, and then really bestow the gift he came to give. So then, in meditation, Lord Nityananda understood one day, my brother is now inaugurating the Sankirtan movement. He's calling for me. So he left Braj journey to Navadvip Dham, where they were reunited in a very emotional reunion. And then Lord Chaitanya gave the order to the devotees to go out in pairs, and for Lord Nityananda to go out with Haridas Thakur as his Sankirtan companion. And the instruction, Bolo Krishna Bhaja Krishna Krishna Koda Siksha, Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Pranadan. Tell everyone, whoever you meet, worship Krishna, chant Krishna's name, because Krishna is our mother, Krishna is our supreme father, he's our wealth, the wealth of our lives. And Haridas Thakur at this time is quite elderly. But he went off with Lord Nityananda like little children, distributing door to door the message. Some people received it well, some didn't, some abused them, but they would just laugh and go on to the next candidate. And then they came across Jaga and Madhai, and you know the pastime, which was largely inaugurated by Lord Nityananda to bring the kirtan out from behind closed doors in Srivasangan into the public so that everyone could benefit. Because the Srivasangan, Lord Chaitanya and the devotees were like scientists experimenting with some novel weapon, not really understanding how it's going to affect the world. This non-violent weapon was the holy name, but and what was transpiring in those kirtans and the transformations Lord Chaitanya would go through was bewildering even to the devotees. We can't really let this out from behind closed doors where we can control, who enters. This was not pleasing to Lord Nityananda. Through the pastime of Jaga and Madhai, when word got back to Srivasangan that they're killing your Nitai, and he ran out with the devotees, raised his hands, chakra, Sudarshan chakra appeared ready to sever their heads, and then Lord Nityananda said, no, if you kill them, you'll have to kill everybody, because in this age, everyone is like them. Don't kill them. Destroy the demoniac mentality, leaving nothing but the newly awakened love of God to give them new life. So, but then Lord Nityananda kind of used that as a justification. He wanted to introduce Gaura Kirtan, not as a replacement to Krishna Kirtan, but as an invocation. But he was a little uneasy, because if anyone ever equated Lord Chaitanya with God, he didn't take it very well from one perspective. He would threaten to drown himself in the Ganges or leave Navadvip or whatever. So the devotees were very reluctant to bring up this topic. But after Jaga and Madhai, considering how that went, it was a very intense, extreme Leela. And he was thinking, this is not really the best way to reach these fallen souls. He didn't change Lord Chaitanya's order, he adjusted it in his own way. He started going door to door, singing to everyone so sweetly. Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Maha Gorangera Namare Yetana Goranga Bhaja Sehaya Mora Pranare. Worship Gauranga, chant Gauranga's name. He is the wealth of our lives. And that Gaur Kirtan, which Lord Nityananda established, kind of spread. And then in Jagannath Puri, Advaita, he started singing Gaur Kirtan. Now Lord Chaitanya, all he could hear was Kirtan. He didn't realize that his name was being used. So he ran out to join the Kirtan, and he heard that Advaita is leading Gaur Kirtan. So he went back into the house, and what are they doing? And Advaita was kind of uneasy about this because he was afraid that Lord Chaitanya would be angry and threaten to leave Puri. So he approached very nervously, and Lord Chaitanya said, "What kind of kirtan was that?" And just then, a kirtan party, a pilgrimage group, arrived from Navadvip, singing Gaur Kirtan. And Lord Chaitanya addressed the devotees, said by Srivas Thakur, "What are you doing?" He went like this. Put his right hand right in Lord Chaitanya's face. "I don't understand what you're trying to say here. Why are you doing that?" He said, "I'm trying to cover the sun with my hand. Because I don't believe in free will." And what are you talking about? So I'm just doing as you inspire us to do, chanting this Gaur Kirtan. But you're telling me I'm telling you I can't cover the sun with my hand. I can't follow this instruction because I don't believe in free will. And I'm doing as you impel us to do from within. And then Lord Chaitanya realized that any desire that sprouts in the heart of a pure devotee must be the Lord's will. And he accepted. Now, this is part of an ongoing series. Ultimately, it was Advaita who brought the Lord down, directed his Leela according to his will, and then in that riddle, conveyed through Jagadananda Pandit, told the Lord, "Tell your Lord Mahaprabhu, who is acting just like madmen do, that everyone in Navadvip is turned into madmen too. And in the marketplace, rice is no longer in demand." What are they talking about? But Lord Chaitanya knew. This means the distribution is complete. You can fulfill your own purpose in coming, which was desiring to understand the glory of Srimati's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone can cherish through her love, the sublime ecstasy he feels tasting the sweetness of her love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appears from the womb of Sachimata like the moon arising from the ocean, meaning that Well, at that instant, the Lord's mood markedly changed, and he kind of went internal in Gambhira. And then, after some time, Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, began that Gora Kirtan initiated by Lord Nityananda. The devotees were dancing, they were overwhelmed with ecstasy, they fell down unconscious. When they woke up, "Where's Lord Nityananda?" And Advaita said in a very solemn mood, "He's gone home." Meanwhile, if the tattva hasn't put you to sleep, we can wake you up with some lila. While in Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya took Nitai to a secluded place and told him, "If you stay here with me like a peaceful sage, what will be the plight of the devotees in Gauradesh? I promised I would inundate that land with love of God. But now I'm bound here by the desire, by the injunction of Mother Sachi. So you, Nitai, go back to Bengal and relieve the suffering of the people there by showering them in an inundation of bhakti." Some surmise that at the same time he requested him to marry, which is another example of how opposites can attract. Because Lord Chaitanya, he was always a Paka Brahmin. You know, he married Lakshmi Devi, but she couldn't bear the short time of separation. He was in East Bengal, so she, bitten by the serpent of separation, went back. He married Vishnupriya, took sannyas. Lord Nityananda was kind of opposite because he started out as sannyasi, not officially, but everyone accepted him as such. And then he married 2 wives, which is why we call him avadut, divinely eccentric. But you can't just call any madman an avadut, even if he's a devotee, because there has to be that influence that everyone is affected by love of God, by his influence. So, Lord Nityananda, there in Puri, taking Lord Chaitanya's order upon his head, gathered up his 12 Gopals, which also included Gadadhar Das, who was Chandrakanti, the personification, embodiment of Srimati Radharani's golden effulgence. So it was really 11 Gopals, and then Gadadhar Das. So the Gopals, on the on the journey from Puri to Bengal, under the influence of Lord Nityananda, they were like so intoxicated, they were just forget where they were going. Ramdas would just, stand in a threefold bending form in the middle of the road. Gadadhar Das, in a very sweet, gentle voice, would ask him, "Would you like some yogurt?" as he walked around like a gopi holding a pot on his head. And they were just laughing and joking and playing games. And then every now and then, we're supposed to be going to Bengal. "Where are we?" They'd ask somebody, "Where's the road to Bengal?" I said, "Well, you passed that 2 hours back." They would just laugh, dance back in the other direction, forget to make the turn and keep going and ask somebody else, "Where's the road to Bengal?" "You just passed it again. It's back that way." Finally, they ended up in Bengal, after a journey where they were aimlessly lost. And they made their initial base, Panihati, Raghava Pandit's house, where when Lord Nityananda would dance, the whole earth would sway and move with his gestures. And then the kirtans would go on for a month. Even the neighboring children, they would stay in the kirtan for a whole month straight, and their mothers wouldn't even worried about them. You know how mothers are. They're so concerned that, you're eating and drinking properly, but all concerns, all anxiety is just evaporated. And then Lord Nityananda, he sat down on the deity's throne and said, I want to take a bath, which means Abhishek. So the devotees brought Ganges water and perfumed it with delicate aromas and bathed him, dried him, dressed him in new cloth, and decorated him with garlands made of wildflowers and tulsi manjaris. And as the house of Raghava Pandit reverberated with the holy names, everyone forgot all their concerns. They forgot their own bodies. And Lord Nityananda spoke. I really like Kadamba flowers. I want to live in a Kadamba forest. So, can you make me a Kadamba flower garland? And Raghava Pandit said, well, Kadamba flowers are not blooming at this time of year. Lord Nityananda said, well, just look out in your garden. Maybe you'll find something. So when he stepped out of the house, he was overwhelmed with the fragrance of Kadamba flowers. And he looked, where's that coming from? And he saw that his lemon tree had burst into bloom covered with Kadamba flowers. So he picked them, made a garland, came in, offered it to Lord Nityananda. The devotees were intoxicated by the aroma of those flowers as they danced in kirtan. And they just went mad. They would, in the mood of little gopas, who are very powerful because of their depth of love of God, they would go out. Ram Das would pick up a log that 12 men couldn't move, and he'd play it like a flute. Another gopa would go to a banyan tree and embrace it like his dearmost friend, uproot the banyan tree and dance around the house with the banyan tree. Others would get excited. They would embrace a whole banana orchard, and the orchard would just kind of be uprooted and start dancing and swaying around the house. And then something surprising happened. The fragrance of the atmosphere, which was so much permeated with Kadamba flowers, changed to Drona flowers, which had a sweet, intoxicating fragrance. Where's that coming from? Raghava Pandit looked to see if his lemon tree was now joyfully blossoming in Drona flowers, but it wasn't. He looked around, couldn't find any flowers, but the fragrance was very distinct. And then Lord Nityananda revealed the secret. Lord Chaitanya, who's still in Puri, is right now wearing a garland made of drona flowers. And he was so attracted to your chanting and dancing that he's here, though invisible, with all of us, to infuse us with his love. And then Lord Nityananda just began roaring, Krishna, Krishna. And in Bengal, the floodgates of love of God were opened, and even atheists and agnostics were drowned in that flood of love of God. Now, in the same town was the palace of one exceptionally ferocious, vicious Qazi, Muslim governor, who detested the sound of kirtan and violently opposed it with all his might. And it made the devotees somewhat intimidated. So in this intoxication during the kirtan by the effects of the drona flowers, Gadadhar Pandit became very, what's the word? Unconventional. He danced right into the palace of the Qazi. And his mood just disarmed all the guards. They were like paralyzed. They'd never seen such innocence, sweetness, love, compassion, and they couldn't stop him from dancing right into the Qazi's palace. So then the Qazi hears kirtan coming right from his courtyard. He runs out, charging in full rage, fuming with wrath. And he saw Gadadhar. And he was similarly disarmed, just like the guards, subdued by the image of innocence standing before him, Gadadhar Das. And he asked, my dear Gadadhar, what brings you to my palace? And Gadadhar told him, Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda have descended to this world to induce everyone to chant Hare Krishna. And the world is now resounding with the sounds of the holy name, except for you, who refuse to chant. And I have come here to induce you too to join the kirtan movement. The Qazi was stupefied. And the influence of Gadadhar Pandit, who was under the influence of Lord Nityananda's ecstasy, the Qazi simply smiled and assured him, okay, I'll chant Hare Krishna tomorrow. But Gadadhar couldn't hear tomorrow. All he heard was Hare Krishna coming from the lips of the Qazi, and he began to dance so sweetly that the Qazi completely forgot his malicious ways. And then, he came back to Raghava Pandit's house, and everyone is just getting wilder. These gopas, Lord Nityananda's associates, assigned to preach in Bengal, they're running out through the forest. They climb up in trees. And even if they walk down on the tender little branches, they wouldn't break. And then they jump down like monkeys because they're, Ram Leela. And then one of them jump on the back of a ferocious tiger. Another one would play with a python like it's a toy. And then But then, one day, in the course of his preaching, Lord Nityananda came to the house of Suryadas Pandit, the elder brother of Gauridas Pandit, who I've heard there's a play today, the deities at Gauridas Pandit's, they're Gaurnitai, sculpted in the presence of Gaurnitai themselves. It's the only time that they stood together to be sculpted into deities. Because they're so controlled by the love of Gauridas Pandit, who is Subal of Krishna Lila. So this is his elder brother, Suryadas Pandit. Exemplary character, highly cultured, very learned, deeply devotional, and had two beautiful, refined daughters of marriageable age. And when Lord Nityananda saw them, he remembered that Lord Chaitanya asked him to marry because it would help him in his preaching. That the mutual attraction was natural because, Vasudha and Janava are Varuni and Revati, Balaram's own wives, combined with the Nagamandri, his internal potency. So he proposed to Suryadas Pandit, I would like to marry your daughters. So at first, Suryadas Pandit was so highly honored. But then, as sometimes happens, social concerns, family affairs started to haunt his mind. He thought, what are people going to think if I offer the hands of my most refined, highly cultured daughters to this kind of a madman at times? What are people going to say? So he told Lord Nityananda that, my daughters are such high class, but you don't even seem to have any caste. So how can I do this? And Lord Nityananda, he was very detached. He just wandered off to the bank of the Ganges and sat down in meditation. And that night, in a dream, Suryadas Pandit saw this very tall, white Mahapurusha holding a plow, not a plow and a club like weapon, plow and a pestle like a farmer uses. The plow prepares the soil to receive the Bhakti Lata Bija, to grow into love of God. The pestle, it grinds spices into powder. It's like what it does to our false ego. So I saw him in that form. And Lord Balaram asked Suryadas Pandit, do you recognize me? He could only partially make the connection in his mind. And in the morning, he started discussing with his family members, I asked for the hands of my daughter, and I kind of said no, and then I had this dream, and he asked if I recognize him. I'm not really making sense of the whole thing. But Vasudha was hearing this. And her bhava became overwhelming, causing her to fall into a death-like trance. Everybody panicked. They called the Vaidya. His treatment failed. The family was aghast. And Suryadas Pandit realized, I've committed offense to Lord Nityananda. So he ran, and she can be cured only by the dust of his feet. He told his family we should all pray to him. And then Suryadas Pandit ran to the Ganges and saw Lord Nityananda sitting there, wrapped in meditation, very peaceful. not disturbed by all this drama. Lord Nityananda accompanied to his house, and as soon as he entered, the scent of Lord Nityananda's lotus feet entered the nostrils of Vishuddha. She woke up and saw him. By the influence of his own Leela Shakti, he revealed him. Lord Nityananda also has a Sadbhuja form, holding bow and arrow, plow and pestle, staff and kamandala. So seeing that she was living only by Lord Nityananda's mercy, they agreed that they be married. And during the marriage feast, Janavade was serving prasad, and Lord Nityananda reached out, took her by the hand, told Suryadas Pandit, I'll accept her as the dowry. So Suryadas Pandit said, I've already surrendered my caste, my life, my relatives. So, this is perfect. He raised his arms and began to dance, chanting, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. And then, so Vishuddha gave birth to Birabhadra, who is the incarnation of Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, a very powerful preacher. A little bit different than the 12 Gopas. They didn't really preach very much. It's just their influence inundated everybody in love of God. But Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, he was a powerful preacher. And his sister, Ganga Devi, who is Ganga Devi herself. But Vishuddha left this world early, so Janavadevi adopted Vishuddha's children and one of her own, Ramdas, her adopted child. And they accomplished the mission assigned to them, inundating all of Bengal in the flood of love of God. Until news arrived that Lord Chaitanya, he left the world. And Lord Nityananda withdrew internally. He became just inert. Only sign of life was continually chanting the name of Gauranga for 9 years. And then he snapped out of it, being drawn to Navadvip, because he knew the time has come. Jiva Goswami, who, with his brothers, Rupa and Sanatan, although he was just a baby, he met Lord Gauranga at Navadvip. Ramakeli. And the Lord told him, study all the books you can, learn the philosophy, hear from sadhus, because that will be the philosophical basis of your service to your uncles, Rupa and Sanatan. When you finish your studies, go to Navadvip for parikrama. Take shelter of Lord Nityananda's lotus feet. So by the time he was 16 years of age, Jiva Goswami left home chanting, Nadia, Nadia. And as he approached Navadvip, Lord Nityananda became very animated, demonstrating how when a devotee renounces the world on the path back home, the Lord runs to him to meet him on the way, to embrace him and infuse him with everything required for the journey. So seeing the elevated stage of Jiva Goswami, the devotees took him to Lord Nityananda, who began once again roaring with laughter. Jiva fell unconscious. Lord Nityananda left him up. And before, during, and mostly after the parikrama, Lord Nityananda began revealing to Jiva Goswami that which was penned by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his famous Navadvip Dham Parikrama, where Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, elaborating on Lord Nityananda's instructions to Jiva Goswami, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains how, although we know that Lord Chaitanya is the most confidential avatar, I know that he's all in all. His glories, his identity, his purpose is concealed in Shastra, so that only the very wise can understand. And this especially because he did not want to be identified as Krishna, as we said before, because he wants to experience service to Krishna in the mood of Sri Radha. That all changed when Lord Chaitanya left the world, at which time the secrets concealed in the revealed scriptures, as well as the yet unrevealed scriptures, all became manifest. And it was by the order of Lord Nityananda that Maya Devi lifted the veil so that those confidential truths in hidden meetings could become known to all. As he wandered through Navadvip, arms raised, dancing, calling out, "Come, living entities of Kali Yuga. You are desiring happiness, bliss, and I am giving it. Simply chant the holy names of Gauranga and dance without reservation. The happiness I give is eternal, ecstatic, transcendental bliss beyond all boundaries." And then he explained to Jiva Goswami to contribute to the philosophical foundation Jiva Goswami would offer to his uncles later in Braja. He explained a dynamic that is really important and practical for us here today. When we chant the holy name of Krishna, or you can say some people do chant the holy name of Krishna, birth after birth after birth, and don't experience love of God. Due to offenses. And Braj is the place where offenses are punished. So when one who's harboring, but still having offenses in his heart, when he chants Hare Krishna, love of God hides from him. The holy names of Nitai and Gaur are different because they do not consider offenses. and we chant their holy names, that love of God comes looking for us. And there is no other remedy for the evils and perils of Kali Yuga than the holy names of Nitai and Gaur as invocation to the Hare Krishna mantra. Of course, the first invocation is prayers to Guru and Gauranga. And thus, Srila Prabhupada instructed us, before we chant Hare Krishna, after our invocation prayers to Guru and the Sampradaya, we chant the Panchatattva mantra to clear away offenses and obstacles, to invoke auspiciousness, before chanting Hare Krishna. So, practically speaking, we can experience Lord Nityananda's presence in the association of our Guru. And Srila Prabhupada, sometimes, he could be very spontaneous and even, you might say, unconventional. Like when the topic of sahajas came up. I kicked their face with my boot. Where did that come from? You can see the ecstasy of Lord Balaram when Pralambasura was playing like a little gopa to trick everyone, to deceive them, and take away Balaram. Because, Pralambasura lost in the game, which dictates that the winner rides the loser like a horse, riding him on a ship. So Pralamba lost. Balaram won. So Balaram is riding Pralamba just like Krishna is riding on the shoulders of Sudama or Sridama. And they're running around in the forest like a game. But then Pralamba runs off with Balaram. And Balaram is thinking, this is not part of the game. This is not the rules. Where's he taking me? And then Balaram got fearful. Maybe same thing's happening with Krishna. But then he realized this is a demon. And then he appeared as a hideous, monstrous demon. The personification of the anartha, of the thief who steals ourself from ourselves, meaning Mayavad, which is similar to Sahaja. So Balaram bopped him on the head, and his tender hand, which is soft as butter, was like a thunderbolt crashing the skull of Pralamba, and he came crashing down because he reciprocates according to the intention of our approach. So when Srila Prabhupada, just cultured, refined Bengali sadhu would just spontaneously come out with an expression like, I kicked their face with my boot. That can be pretty perplexing unless you realize this is the spirit of Balaram coming through Gurudev, in which case it becomes quite relishable. So the presence of Lord Nityananda is experienced through his agent, the Guru, and his internal potency is experiential in the ability to rise above the anarthas and obstacles to achieve the ultimate goal of love of God. In the Mahamantra, the divine panacea for all sufferings in this world. Shri Nityananda Rama Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Are there any questions or comments? Yes. My dear neighbor.
Thank you, Maharaj. Wonderful class. Thank you for amazing class, Maharaj.
Thank you for your wonderful kirtans.
I'm wondering, when you were talking about how Balaram would play Ram Leela, and he would take the part of Ram.
Lakshman.
Of Lakshman. Okay.
Younger brother.
Yeah, but then when Hare Pandit felt like it was just like Ram's father, Dasarath, and he died after separation. So was Hare Pandit Dasarath in a previous lifetime?
Yes.
Wow. He had to go.
So, yeah.
He had to go through that. Twice.
Yeah, but back up a little bit. During the plays of Ram Leela, Lord Nityananda would, before the drama, he would really, in great detail, instruct all the boys, what's your lines, what's your role, what's your bhav, everything. And then he would direct to make sure. But when Vishwamitra Muni asked Dasarath for his sons, both Ram and Lakshman, and Dasarath, he fell unconscious, and he might have been dead for all appearances, because the shock affected everyone with that forgetfulness. This is a drama. To them, it was the real thing. So Dasarath, fell unconscious, and he might have been dead. It was one of the boys just playing the act. But everybody forgot this is a drama. They were so drawn into the Leela that they're aghast. Dasarath might have just died. But then one of them remembered, no, this is a play. It wasn't, it was, but the real culmination was when Ram and Lakshman were struck down by Indrajit's missiles. They're unconscious on the ground. And then everyone's paralyzed. But then, by Lord Nityananda's Yoga Maya, which can cause both remembrance and forgetfulness, one of the boys remembered. He'll be revived when Hanuman brings the herb from the Himalayas. Hanuman, remember your role. And then he woke up and he ran off, brought back the mountain, gave it to the Vaidya. He picked the herbs, put it before Ram and Lakshman. Their lotus eyes fluttered. And everyone chanted, Chai Nitai. So it happened to a lesser degree when Vishwamitra Muni asked for, but then it was more intensified later in the Leela when Ram and Lakshman fell unconscious on the battlefield. They might have been dead from Indrajit's missiles. But Hanuman, bring the herb. Woke up, brought the herb, they were revived.
But it was when the sannyasi came and took Nityananda, that was the time.
He made the connection. Now I'm as good as Dasarath.
Right.
And that's also the time when they realized there was a long-standing prophecy that everyone forgot when Nityananda was born. There was a long-standing prophecy that in the future Balaram would take birth in that village. But when Lord Nityananda was born, everyone forgot. And as soon as he left, they all remembered. Balaram was born here. And now he's gone.
Also, Maharaj, you mentioned that...
and shortly thereafter, Hridaya Pandit gave up his life also, just like Dasarath. Yes.
You mentioned how in the beginning, Krishnadas Kaviraj said that he shouldn't mention some of the things that he wanted to talk about, but he said it would not be appropriate, I assume, for certain people to hear. But he said because he felt duty-bound, you could say, to do it, to...
obliged.
So he did that. So we can understand from that, I think, can't we, that a lot of these things we're hearing, we have no qualification to hear. And it's just by causeless mercy we're able to get such an intimate glimpse into these incredible pastimes and mood that has never been available to human beings in the history of this planet ever before.
And therefore we say all glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, who gave us the eligibility, even though we had no qualification. That's half of that formula, why he was reluctant to reveal. The other half was it very much involved him as the prime candidate in that particular pastime. So between the reservations of revealing the glories of Lord Nityananda and his own reluctance to reveal himself as a recipient of such blessings, he was reluctant. But then he crossed beyond that, because this will be beneficial for everyone. I'm going to disclose it regardless. And that's something we all face, You don't want to take prominence in anything you do or say, but if your story can be a testimony to the grace of Sri Guru and Gauranga, then with reservation, it can be disclosed. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj, very much. You mentioned that the gift Lord Chaitanya, I'm not sure if both of them brought, was the Panchatattva Mahamantra. How did you manage? That the greatest gift they brought was the Panchatattva Mahamantra? Or what Lord Nityananda brought?
That was the gift of, that was, the Panchatattva mantra was specifically was Srila Prabhupada's instructions to us. But it's a continuation of the sequence inaugurated by Lord Nityananda to chant the holy names of Gauranga as the appropriate means of crossing over the obstacles and impediments and offenses of Kali Yuga. It was Lord Nityananda who inaugurated that trend to chant the names of Gauranga. Advaita expanded it into a more broad Gaura Kirtan. And of course, Gaura Kirtan always includes Lord Nityananda. They're inseparable. And then Advaita Acharya expanded it more into elaborate Gaura Kirtan. And then Srivas Pandit kind of justified it because he was the one that, Lord Chaitanya asked, what are you doing? Meaning that he was like the representative of the pilgrims from Bengal. So Lord Advaita Acharya is kind of avoiding Lord Chaitanya. Srivas Thakur came to him. Mahaprabhu asked, what are you doing? Meaning Gaura Kirtan. I don't believe in free will. You mean you're going to blame this on me? That I made you do it? Then what are you trying to say? I'm trying to cover the sun, but I can't do it. Your glories cannot be confined. They're going to come out regardless. And then Lord Chaitanya concluded, that's their will. If such a will sprouts in the heart of devotee, it must be divine, and he surrendered to it. There was a whole sequence culminating in Srila Prabhupada's instructions to us to chant the Panchatattva mantra to clear offenses before you chant Hare Krishna.
And yet it is not like a mandatory, Maharaj.
What's that?
It's not like a mandatory thing to chant.
It's only mandatory if you want to overcome obstacles and offenses and material desires. It's not mandatory in the sense of a specific regulation. I mean, it is, but there's no hard and fast rules. But the general principle is you can go on chanting Hare Krishna life after life and after life and not obtain the love of God, and a lot of people do it.
So how come it's not mandatory?
How come what?
How come is it not like a mandatory that we should chant before?
Well, it's Srila Prabhupada's instruction, so we take that as mandatory.
So what did Prabhupada say? I mean, before, but it's just like a 1 or 3 times. It's not. There's no emphasis on chanting the Panchatattva mantra.
There is.
There is.
Mm-hmm. It may not be so obvious out of context. In context, it is very clear. But there again, you start with invocation prayers to Guru, to Parampara, to Gaura Nitai, to Panchatattva, to Radha and Krishna Mahamantra. You don't have to do it, but you won't achieve love of God if you don't. It kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Okay, thank you.
And they do print it on the mantra cards they give out from the temple. The first, the Panchatattva mantra is there, and the Hare Krishna mantra is right below that. So,
just remember, invocation prayers means beseeching blessings and grace to proceed, starting with Guru, Parampara, Panchatattva, then Radha and Krishna. That way, you have sufficient grace and blessings to clear the obstacles and offenses that you can approach Radha and Krishna in the Mahamantra. Otherwise, you're going to experience a lot of obstacles and delays.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. I just want to make one small comment. I really like that line when you said, when there is a desire of a pure devotee, it's actually the Lord's sanction is there. Am I right? Am I repeating it right? So yeah, it was I felt like so profound, because the pure devotees are fully attuned with the Lord's desire. So that's the reason, Maharaj?
And that goes back to the prodigal son, because there's no one in your life who so much wants you to surpass him as your father. There's no one in your life who so much wants you to surpass them as your father. Which is related to Kartik's statement that the Lord loves to give credit and glory to his devotees and inspires them to do what it takes on his behalf.
Just real quick. So, would there be any problem if a person wants to chant many rounds of the Panchatattva mantra?
There's no problem, but it's not exactly recommended.
Well, if one finishes his prescribed number of rounds.
Oh, on that condition.
They'd be all right?
Then it's wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that final detail. It makes all the difference.
So it's more so consciousness and intention and understanding, like the invocation mantras. It's not like we're chanting them all over again and again. We do, but it's not like the Hare Krishna mantra, but the depth and intensity and the intention when we chant those, that's what counts.
Yes, once you've established that protocol, that intention, that attention with intention, then you can chant Hare Krishna all day and night. But then next morning, restore and revive that protocol by going through this sequence again. Once you've gone through it, established your intention, the etiquette, then you can chant Hare Krishna on and on till next morning, which is a reset back to the basics.
One last question, Maharaj, from Rob.
Yeah. Sorry, I hope this is short. But you made the statement, when the devotee renounces the world, the Lord runs to him to give him everything he needs for the journey, which I really enjoyed. My question is, how do you balance that renunciation but duty in devotional service, but also deciphering Lord's will as your desires?
It's a good question. Thank you for expressing that. Renunciation, proper renunciation, is a state of consciousness that nothing is mine. But that has to be balanced with everything is Krishna, therefore I am a steward. Which means that we have certain responsibilities. It's, for the pleasure of Krishna. And they should not be neglected or rejected. What's rejected is our sense of, what's renounced is our sense of proprietorship. I'm not the proprietor. I am the steward of the gifts that Krishna has given me, which includes family and society and so many things in proper devotional perspective. We don't become irresponsible to domestic and social obligations, but we renounce the sense of proprietorship and bodily identification and act as a steward for Krishna's pleasure and conduct all other relationships, duties, obligations, responsibilities on that principle. I'm steward. Krishna has entrusted me to take care of these people. I'll do it according to his design and for his pleasure. So, back to, well, kind of parallel to, I'm the most fallen. No, you're not the most anything. Devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, should I renounce everything now? What do you have to renounce? One thing, a false sense of proprietorship and control. But generally you don't give that up all at once. If you can, all glories, but generally it's a gradual process of practice and discrimination. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
His Holiness Varsana Swami Maharaj ki.
The glories of Lord Chaitanya.
Two ways. He ordered Maya Devi to remove the veil that covered the portions of the existing scriptures, so they didn't register during Lord Chaitanya's Leela, which would have disrupted his purpose. So those indications in Shastra were there all along. But Maya Devi, to please Lord Chaitanya, kept them covered, concealed. With Mahaprabhu's completion of his Leela, Lord Nityananda ordered Maya Devi, now remove that covering so that everyone can see what's right there in broad daylight. That's half of the formula. The other half is the yet unrevealed scriptures become manifest. And you see Lord Nityananda's direct involvement in that. In Vrindavan Das Thakur's inspiration to write Chaitanya Bhagavat, Kaviraj Goswami's not only inspiration, but the whole Leela of Lord Balaram, directing him to Vrindavan, where, on the banks of Radhakund, he compiled Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then, it goes further because after Lord Nityananda concluded his Leela, it was carried on and expanded through the works of Janava Devi. And then even her disappearance, going into the deity room, never coming out again, entering into the form of a Nangamanjari, through her disciple, Madhu Pandit, revealing the essence of Gaudiya Vaishnava esoterica in establishing Radha Gopinath, Ananga Kanai Rai, on the banks of Radhakund. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just like a one-time revelation, it was a sequence of events going deeper and deeper, but inaugurated by Lord Nityananda. And then, in a sense, culminating through Janava Devi.
So, isn't it similar, Maharaj, that, like you said, that the Maya Devi covered the glories of Lord Chaitanya until the right time came, when he disappeared, not to
so as not to disrupt his mood.
Right. So, isn't it somewhat similar, maybe, that with Krishna's glories, that they are somewhat covered, and all the people in India, they are not aware of the...
Is similar but not identical. But really, regarding the glories of Lord Krishna, that's directly related to Lord Gauranga's mission and why that was concealed. They're all intertwined, all these different dynamics. You can evaluate them separately, but really they're intertwined.
So Lord Chaitanya comes to actually reveal the...
To reveal Krishna.
The Lord Nityananda to reveal Lord Chaitanya.
Yes.
Oh, makes sense.
And then Srila Prabhupada revealing everything.
Right.
When the time was right.
Right. And what was the name of how did you call the Lord who has no boundaries in terms of rescuing his devotees? Protocol?
The prodigal Lord. Prodigal.
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 What does that mean?
It's a very famous parable of Jesus. I mean, he told it. The prodigal son. And there's many, like with all parables, there's many levels to it. So the obvious, okay, the son squandered his wealth, came to the conclusion, better a servant in my father's house than a master in a foreign land. That's the obvious, common understanding. But it goes deeper. Because more of, there's a greater obstacle, anartha, in the older son. Because he was resentful. When the prodigal son got all this attention and celebration, he was resentful. By this time, the younger son was humble. The older son, he followed the regulations, the rules and regulations. The younger son didn't. But he was proud and envious. So the real obstacle is not displayed so much in the younger as the older son. But prodigal means without boundaries. So who's really without boundaries here? It's really the father. Because, so amongst lords, who's the prodigal lord? Lord Nityananda. He has no boundaries in distributing grace, blessings, and mercy. The prodigal Lord.
Anyone else? Maharaj, would it be okay for the photo session to remove the cushions for a few moments now?
I might fall over.
Can you remove? Oh, so better now.
He's no fun. He's all right over.
Just for a moment. Anyone wants to say? Wants to?
Raise yourself.
Okay.
Promoting killing the demoniac mentality without depriving that soul of its mortal frame, which can be useful.
What's the last thing? Just the last sentence. The last sentence.
It can be useful to have a body. You just don't need to identify with it, that's all. Or misidentify with it.
Thank you so much for this.
And, just following up on Varahadeva's appearance. Krishna was in a dilemma because his own son, born of Bhumi, was a good boy until he fell into bad association. But Krishna promised Bhumi, foreseeing the future, he promised Bhumi that he wouldn't kill her without Bhumi's consent. Well, what mother is going to consent to have her husband kill her son. So how did that happen?
Don't remember.
Well, in a sense, the culmination of his demoniac activities was when he kidnapped the Kanyakumaris from their prayer and he incarcerated them. So that was like the last straw. So Krishna thought, I got to deal with this. So seeing Krishna about to board Garuda to fly off into a chivalrous adventure, Satyabhama wanted to go with him. So she jumped on the back of Garuda, holding on to Krishna as they flew into this intense warfare. Until it got too much for Satyabhama, she just called out, kill him now. Well, Satyabhama is non-different in a sense than Bhumi, same personality in different form. So that was taken as Bhumi's consent. So
That's how it was applied.
yeah, so he killed him. But just to demonstrate that Krishna does not like that course. Bhumi came out with Bhomashura's son. He said, Krishna, here's your grandson. He's traumatized by what he just saw. Can you assure him that he has no cause for fear? Which he did. What was his name? Bhagadatta.
Bhagadatta.
Yeah, who perished in the Battle of Kurukshetra. So, Krishna does not like killing unless there's no alternative. But that dislike for violence was, highlighted in Lord Nityananda's pastimes.
So you said that the Krishna...
If you kill them, you're going to have to kill everybody.
Right.
But if we can deliver them, then everybody will have the means.
You said that Krishna destroys the subtle body?
When Krishna kills, it destroys not only the gross, but the subtle body as well. So when the subtle body is gone, what happens to the offenses?
They are gone.
They're gone. What's left? Newfound love of God. That's why we call it a blessing.
So you're
But it's
talking-
not Krishna's first choice.
So this is when he kills the demons? That's what happens?
Yes. But really focus on Lord Nityananda's statement. Lord Chaitanya was ready to kill Jagai Mata with Sudarshan Chakra. Lord Nityananda pleaded, if you kill them, you're gonna have to kill everybody, because that's the mentality of people in this age.
I think needs to be 4 of them.
No, it's time.
We could go on forever.
I got a flight waiting.
Yes.
I don't know how long it's going to take to get it off. Get the door open.
Right.